Hey folks, welcome to another episode of ASP.NET Core from Zero to Overkill. So in this episode we'll start building an authentication service for for the application as a whole that we're building, and we'll be using ASP.NET Core Identity and Razor Pages for the UI part. So this will be, like I said, an authentication service. Will act like a standalone application instead of being part of the web application we're developing. We make it a different component. So this way we centralize the authentication logic, and we allow for multiple applications like web in this case, and in maybe in the future, but probably not as like you saw in the planning. It's not really an objective of the series, but we could have a mobile application or desktop applications that can simply delegate the authentication part to this centralized one. Instead of having everything scattered around, we could just use one application and delegate. So like a single sign-on, but because this is not really an enterprise with all of that stuff, it's just to allow for this flexibility. And to achieve this, we'll use like an OpenID Connect OAuth 2 flow. So this will be a provider, or an OpenID Connect provider, that upon successful authentication will provide a token that client applications can use to make API calls. In this case, when we implement the backend for frontend for our single page application, that component, this backend for frontend, we'll need to use that token to call the other services, the group management, and the others we have still not built, but will build eventually. So what tools and technologies we'll use to build this? So like I said, ASP.NET Core Identity, which is a framework provided component for handling all of these authentication and authorization needs. Razor Pages, because basically it's right now the way it's recommended to build server-side rendered in ASP.NET is to use Razor Pages and not really MVC. MVC most of the time right now should be used for like web APIs and stuff like that. Razor Pages is the recommended way to build this. I'm really more used to MVC. It's what I've used more in the past, but nice to learn new stuff. To back our identity, we'll use Entity Framework Core, which will communicate with a Postgres SQL database like we have used in other episodes of this series. And we'll use Identity Server 4 for the OpenID Connect part. Not in this episode, but in future episodes we'll add this. In this episode we'll focus on the authentication flow. And to achieve this authentication flow, there are 4 main implementation options I thought about. So the easiest way to achieve this would probably be just to create a new application with identity pre-configured. We'll see how we can do that, but basically in many cases maybe this is enough. We just create an application that already has that in it. We could also create an empty application or already have an existing application and then just scaffold the identity parts, which is possible because there are tools provided to achieve this, like we'll see as well. A little more work than this is to build it ourselves, but using identity. So we start with the empty application, but then we start building everything instead of using what's generated, but using identity because it works, it's already proven, which comes to the point 4, which a lot more work is to build everything from scratch, ignoring identity, which besides being more work is more error prone because we're going to do it all ourselves. And it's really unneeded because there is this identity which is already battle tested, used in a lot of applications. So I don't think it makes that much sense to just start creating something from scratch unless we have some specific need that it doesn't accomplish. It's not our case. So most of the times probably option 2 is the way to go, because we can just have the application and add everything that we need. But because in this series we are exploring and learning how all of this works, I'll just go with 3. But with a catch, I'll create an application using point 2, scaffolding everything, so we can use as guidance, and probably a little more than that. So the plan for this episode is to create a new application with identity pre-configured, just to see what we get and how it's organized. Then we will create another application, but in this case an empty application, then scaffold identity onto it to see everything that gets there, how it's done and all of that. And then finally we'll start building our end product, which will be again an empty application. We'll start building on identity, but as we have the other application with everything scaffolded, we'll use it for guidance and for probably a lot of copy paste, because it's not really interesting to be typing away a lot of code to be equal to the other one. And our needs are not that different. So like I said, probably the best idea would be go with the scaffolded, but I think it's easier to be adding what we need one thing at a time, instead of scaffolding everything and then reading everything and deleting. So maybe this is the best approach for this specific scenario where we want to take a look at everything. In other scenarios, probably 2 is a good way to go. So in terms of steps for these developments, what I expect is to start with creating the DB context to access the identity data store, and create the migrations required to create and update the database. Then we'll go on to the startup class and add required parts like identity, configuration, MVC, because when we create a new web application, new empty application, the MVC will not even be registered, so we need to do that. And then we'll start creating the interesting part, creating the pages. So for registration, login, logout, and account. So it seems a few pages, but it is more than work enough for a video, and probably will be a massive video. Hopefully not too massive, but I'm expecting it to be a little big. But yeah, so this is the plan, and let's start coding. So let's start by creating a simple application with authentication pre-configured. So heading here to the docs, you can see lots of information and how we can get started with an application with authentication or Visual Studio or the command line interface, which is what I'm going to use. So if we just new up a new web app, telling it we want auth individual, it will have individual user accounts, which is the usual for websites, I would say. So let's get started. Let me just start by creating the source folder, and then let's check the help. So web app is what they recommend, which will use, well, MVC, Razor Pages. So let's see the options. Which are a lot, but the authentication ones, so the default is no authentication, the individual is what they recommend, so creating a normal authentication, B2C, Azure AD and stuff, organization, specific options, and Windows authentication. We want to go with the individual. Web app with the output folder. Okay, so we have the app. Let's add it to the solution. Okay, so we can now head over to Rider and see the application. Here it is. Well, before exploring the code, we can see if we can get it to work. So I would say it works right out of the box. Yes. And here we have it, so we can already log in and register. Okay. I'm not a fan of all these password rules. Okay, so we're in right out of the box. So if you're just doing a simple application, maybe this is a good way to start because it's already everything done. So let's get a sneak peek of the code. We can see this appdb here, so this is using SQLite. And we can, let's start with the startup. So cookie policy options. You can see there is already a lot of stuff here. And adding the DB context, SQLite, default identity. So this is, I think, rather new. Let's check here the docs. I think it's on the beginning. Yes, was introduced in ASP.NET Core 2.1. So it's basically a helper that calls other things. And this is using Razor Pages class library. So if we go around here, identity, there's only the view start, which is used to bootstrap everything for identity, but the code for identity is not here. It's on a separate package. And over here, it's only we only add things that are missing. So in terms of this, it's rather empty. Everything comes from this add default UI, add default identity. So like I said, for a simple application, probably this will be more than enough. Work with what's out of the box and then just tweak it a little bit. But we want to explore it more in depth, so that's why we won't be using this approach, but just to check out, which is rather simple to use it. I think it's just a matter of doing these configurations. The rest of the stuff I think is optional but recommended, like HTTPS redirection to mandate everything to go over HTTPS. Static files we already talked. Use cookie policy is configured over here. So GDPR and all of that stuff. Use authentication to enforce we want authentication in this application and MVC, of course. And over here, I think the rest of the pages are just the other pages non-identity, because everything from identity is in a separate package. So let's see if there are links here. all the docs explaining how to use all of this. Scaffold. We'll be scaffolding in a minute. So we can scaffold just the files we want. We will be scaffolding everything, but this is the way to go with this approach. So we already have this over here. Let's try it. Just so maybe we can try to run this just to scaffold like the account page or the login page and add some style over there. So we want account login only. Okay, we need a package reference. How about now? Okay, let's check if a file was created. And it was pages count. There are a lot of pages. We just asked for one, but okay. And we have the login page. So what do I change just to see it working? Use a local account. Let's do this. Let's run it. What happened? Using directive. So the scaffolder did not very smart things. That's the file. Scheme already exists. Identity application. Add scheme. Okay. I'm lost. Oh, this is a problem. This is trying to override that, putting SQL Server. That's not very smart. Maybe we're not supposed to scaffold identity when we already had identity. I'll try again. But probably this wasn't the best approach, so probably my fault. Let's log out, log in, and let's do this. Okay. Okay, so this worked, but I think there was too much stuff over here, so maybe the best approach isn't scaffolding after using that. Probably the objective of scaffolding is just when we have the empty application and not to add the files, although I was expecting to be able to do this. It worked, but okay. So let's get rid of this application. It was just to explore a bit. Bye. Okay, so now we want to head on to scaffolding. Before starting to scaffold stuff, let's create a new application. So new web, we want an empty one. Reference, because we are going to use this to guide us developing the real deal. Add it to the solution. So it's here. Let's take a look. It should be really empty. And it is, so nothing else but the program and startup classes, which are like we already seen in the past. Now let's see what the docs say. So blah 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 blah, stuff. Let's start doing. So we need a tool. I didn't really talk about it before, but I already used it when trying to scaffold just that page with the simple web application. So I already have this tool installed, the .NET ASP.NET generator. We need to add this package. Let's add it. Apparently it has some dependencies for the code generation. Okay, then we can do this to see the options. Path to the project, new get package, configuration for the project. Bootstrap version, generate. I really want to generate it all, so maybe we can just generate everything. So let's see. Okay, a lot of stuff. So we have a README with some instructions on things that we have to do besides what we scaffolded. And now there are these pages. So cookie consent, layout, login partial. I think this is part of the normal site. And in the areas we have identity specific parts. So the data, we have the data context, so the DB context to use. And let's take a look at this, thinking that we have to implement something really similar, or we could use this, but we'll implement it. Okay, pages. The account stuff is where all the pages are. So this is one of the reasons I want to do it from scratch, kinda, just based on this, because there is a lot of stuff, a lot of pages, and instead of just generating all of them and assuming it's all well, which probably is, I want to go and see all the steps, all the pages, so we can learn how everything works together. But yeah, we have the main page like login, logout, register, reset password, confirmations, logout, two-factor. Probably we won't enable this immediately, but eventually we will enable two-factor, which is important. And in the manage, change password. Yeah, so these are the pages when logged in, and these are when not logged in. So there is a lot of stuff. Besides this, we have this general stuff, view imports, view start, error, and this identity hosting. So the scaffolded part already brings the configuration for the DB context, but instead of putting it in the startup, they use this high hosting startup and use this attribute to tell the framework that this should run at startup. I never used this, just came across it recently, which is interesting. And we can see the scaffold by default uses SQL Server, not what we are going to use, but it wouldn't be so hard to change it. So, okay, seems okay. A lot of stuff. Let's take a look at the README. So, code generated areas identity, configuration identities in the startup. If it was already using identity, it should remove this, okay? Because it's done in this, like we saw when we try to scaffold stuff in the other simple application. So needs static files, needs use authentication, use MVC, and needs some migrations to run that it can't run because it doesn't know for sure the database. Okay. So this was really just a quick look. We'll be looking at it bit by bit as we build our version. We'll end up basically with the same stuff, so like I said, probably the best idea is to use this, take advantage of these helpers, but to see everything working together, I think it will be nice if we create our own and build on it. Let's create the new project for the application. So .NET new web. Okay, where is the project? Did it fail? Okay, it took a while. Okay, so now we have an empty application and we are going to start implementing identity. So let's maybe start with the database. So the database, we can take a look at the reference application, and over here in the areas, identity data. So what we need is to create a DB context that inherits from identity DB context. So this is already part of the framework. If we go here, it goes to external sources. Yes, we used the compiler stuff. Not much here. This inherits from another DB context, which inherits from more DB context, so a lot of stuff. Probably to make it very configurable, but we'll go simple way. So this will allow us this using this identity user, a way to add more columns than the default one has. If we check the properties, so identity user has these properties, so ID, username, normalized username, email, lot of things. But if we want to add more, we just inherit from identity user instead of using it directly. Right now I don't want to put any more properties, so I'll just use it, or maybe create a user from this. Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. We'll create a user, but will not define anything else, at least for now. So let's close all of this. We could create another project. The good thing of doing this way, building everything, is we can do the way we want instead of sticking with the way the scaffolder ends up with. But to simplify things for now, I'll just put everything here. So add a new folder. This folder. Class. So auth db context, because imagination and we will inherit from identity db context of the user. So let's create here the just inherit from identity user and it's good to go. So let's create a constructor. I don't remember. Let's check out this one. Yes, that's what we need. On model creating, so we want to do the usual things that we did in the other application. So why this color? Why are okay? Default schema public. Okay, so normally on model creating, the base one should be called immediately, but I want to make sure the schema is set for everything, so do it right now. How's the usings? Nice and clean. The user. Okay, so we have the DB context. Now let's create some migrations to see if this is all generated correctly. So let's get over here. We need the connection string and to register this before creating migrations. So head on to startup, services.add db context, auth db context, options. Did not what? Okay. So we want options dot use. Oh, I'm missing Postgres. Let me copy from the other applications. Group management. No, data. CS proj. So we need Postgres. .NET add package. So use npg SQL with the connection string. I want it down there. Go. Need the configuration, so we need a constructor that receives an I configuration. Get connection string, and we'll call it auth db context. So let's just create this already. Connection strings auth db context will be, let's copy and paste a little bit more. And over here, change the name of the database, but I'll use the same Postgres server. Okay, so we have this. We have the connection string. We have the DB context. We are registering DB context over here in the startup. So we should be able to create some migrations now. So let's try that. netef migrations add initial create migrations initial create things let's just add a property to playable user so we can see that it appears there, not that we'll be using. So I don't know, sample string. Let's create another migration, sample column, added sample column to playable user, just to make sure everything is working as we expect it to. And it's here, so we added the column sample of type string to ASP.NET users. So let's create the database just for us to check what it creates. So .NET ef update or database update, if this is the command. Sounds like it. Okay, I have data grip open over here. Let's create a new data source, Postgres. We'll call it auth user pass test connection success. So let's check it. Scheme is public. Tables. So we have the migration history like we saw in the past. So initial create, added simple column, all nice. And okay, so we have a lot more stuff. Role claims, roles, user claims, user logins, user roles, users, user tokens. So a lot of things. So we have this working, which is nice. We'll get back to this when we have some. Let's close this. So we'll get back here when we have something to see, because right now we don't have. Let me just, well, we can just check it here just to make sure. So in the database, auth schema is public, tables, users. So sample, the column is right here, but I will delete it because we don't need this for anything. It was just for us to see. So delete. Right here. Remove sample column from playable user. No problem. So let's update the database. just to make sure. So database auth schemas both. Sample is still there. Let's refresh. Sample is not there. Okay. So the database part of this is done. We just need to register it. Let's check here. Hosting startup. So we need to add a DB context. We already did. So we need to add the entity framework stores. Yes, we need this part. Let's check the, where was that? The README. So the static. I think I saw some more things we needed to do. So add default identity, I think there's more. We saw that in the docs. So we get back to the auth part over here in the docs. I think I saw, yes, add default identity does add identity, add default UI, and add default token provider. So what do we have here? So add default identity. But then it's overriding with all of this. We don't want to use a default identity. So we want to use add identity, add default token providers, which is for tokens for reset passwords, change emails, and all of that. So we need this. And add identity. We don't need the add default UI. And we need that part for the database. So let's copy this part, add to our startup, and over here I want playable user, auth context, add identity, something missing. Missing the role, so identity role. So an ID, a name. Okay. We need add identity and add default token providers. Okay, so this database part is done, and we already done some non-database part, but the data part is done with migrations. Not the greatest of organizations for the project, but okay, it's not terrible as well, and we can adjust it later. So now we must start to create the pages that we need for the application. So let's start with the registration page, so we can have some users to play around with login and all that. So create the folder pages, which is the convention, I think, for the for Razor pages. And let me check the organization they have here. So in pages, account, I won't have this sub part of the account because all the application is basically about the account. So login, register, all of that, and then they have a manage where they put the rest. Okay, I will go with the start with the register page. Let's just check what they have here already. Should be simple. So simple thing, which probably has a master page. We'll see that later. Right now we'll just go simple. So over here, just an email password, confirm password, some validation scripts that we won't have right now. Maybe we add them in the future, but right now, no need. And then the code behind. So this page just to allow anonymous because the person is not logged in. And has some services, user manager, sign-in manager, a logger, and an email sender. Then we have this model right here. We'll be following basically this. And then we have a get, which stores the return URL. Which is here. And then the post where the work for the registration happens. So creates a new user. In this case, identity user will create an app playball user. The user in the email, which is both the email, then generates an email confirmation token, prepares a callback, sends an email, signs in automatically the user. I don't know if we'll do this, maybe, probably could, but we could also just redirect to the login page and make the user log in. I don't know which is best, so probably just follow their lead here. Okay, so let's start doing this. Pages, add Razor page, and I'll call it register. No need for this, no need for any of this. We'll add a master page later. Right now, not a master page, a layout page. Master page is old school web forms talk. And we'll create what they have as well. So we need a form. We need to import the tag helpers. Let me remember, view start, view imports. Yes, that's what we need. So pages, add view, no view, razor, see. View imports, no model, and let's just get here right now and only the tag helpers. If we need anything else, we'll add later. So now we have the form. Let's check how they do it. So we have a form, the route, return URL, model, things, post. Okay, maybe we should start from here. So what do we need? I'll probably just copy paste this part, like I told you it would happen, because it doesn't make sense to be doing all of this by hand. So we need all of this. We need this input model, which is the property that will be bound on post, return URL, input model. So I'll copy from here to here, because it's really simple. Oh, this is called register model. Why the name is different? So this is a register page called register model, but when I created this one here, it's called register. Okay. So far so good. We could get back there. I think there's nothing really that interesting here. Can be made private, maybe. Okay, so let's get back here. We have the return URLs. Let's check. So input. I'll just copy this. It's waste of time to be doing this by hand. This is more of the same as we've seen when seeing the views part. It's just a little small differences because it's Razor pages, but really small differences. So validation summary, I'll remove the classes because I don't know much, but probably I won't use these bootstrap specific ones. Hopefully I won't forget. That's why I make the find for class. I prefer to get back to this later. Right now I don't want to worry about styles. I just want to see this working. Okay, so we have a form that posts taking always the return URL, and in the post it will be this input model, because this is Razor pages. When we use this, we have the input model over here. We are putting it there, and then if we go check the original one on the post, we don't even get anything because it's like magic, because we are using this input that's flagged as a bind property. So when we post, it will bind the values automatically to this property, and over here we can just use the input. So the model state is valid, is checking this bind property, and then we can use it directly, not being an argument. It's a bit different from what I'm used to, so because I'm really used to old school MVC, but as Razor pages is the recommended way to do this server-side rendering right now with the ASP.NET Core. We check it out. So we have this part. So before we get to the post, let's see if we can see this page already. Probably we're missing some stuff. Let's take a look at startup. The startup doesn't have much, but the scaffold. So we need MVC, we didn't have yet. Use authentication, use these static files. So let's start here. Services.add MVC. And over here we can remove this app.add use MVC with default route. We need app.use static files, or maybe we don't right now, but we will. And what else? Oh, we need authentication. Which reminds me, I forgot to, over here in the register, we need now anonymous. Startup over here. What more? So static files is done, although we don't need it yet. Use authentication, MVC, it's migrated. So like it is right now, it should run. So let's check if it runs. Let's go. Yes, localhost 5001. We don't have anything there, so we should go to register an exception. So what's missing? It's missing user manager, identity user. Why is it missing user manager? We have added identity, which probably should do that. Let's check here. Oh, probably play ball user. Maybe that's the problem. We're registering this one and then we injected the wrong one. How about now? Email sender. Okay, because there is no email sender, so for this to work, we'll just create over here, just for this to run, we'll add a email. We just put structure that gets an I logger. Logger dot log warning. Implementation is being used. What's the error? What's going wrong? Oh, task dot completed task. Okay, so let's register this just for everything to work. Singleton email sender, dumb email sender. So there isn't a default implementation, we just need to do something, but let's go with this for now. Just do .NET watch run in case it still doesn't work. And now, finally, so email, password, confirm password. Nice. Now let's implement the post part. So checking this out here, we just copy this part. I'll copy all the way here. The rest we'll try to do Can I put this to the side? No. Or I probably can, but I don't know why. How? Normally I do this in Visual Studio. Never tried it here, but so let's see. The post, we need a user and we need to create a user. So let's start. New playable user, in which the username is input.email and the email is input.email. And then we can use the user manager, which is what we use to communicate with the identity database, at least to manage the users. So user manager dot, let's check, but I think there's a register method. Create. Okay. Create user. So results we would have if it succeeded or not. Okay, how do they do? So if succeeded, else they add the errors. Let's copy this part. If result.succeeded, do things. If not, we just add to the model state, we add the errors. And then unsucceed, what do they do? So they log that they created, seems nice, and generate the email and sign in. Okay, so let's log as well. And then let me just put already here, so do it another way. So if we don't have a return URL, we redirect to local redirect or better yet redirect to page, and well, Let's redirect to the root. Else, we want to redirect to the return URL. If you notice over here, they're doing the local redirect, which isn't what we want because the application that asks for this login may not be the same, so we don't want this. We have the applications like in another domain or something like that, because we are doing this independent application. This local redirect would be good if we just the login page was part of the application that was using it, but because we are doing a separate application, we can't use this local redirect. We have to do a normal redirect, and this is wrong, so I'll put local redirect here. Although we don't have anything here, I'll still think about what we should have here. But we should always have a return URL, because if we are using this from other application, it makes no sense. So if we get here, let me just check what they do, but yeah, if we got so far, it means if we enter succeed, we will always have a result to redirect. Why is this complaining? Return statement. Okay, yes. Now what more? So generate the email. I'll copy this again. Copying and pasting. Not from Stack Overflow, but... So let's see. Generate email. These colors are acting weird. Okay. So not here. Confirm email. Then page handler, user ID stuff, send email. We'll end up with that warning that we created. And signing in is persistent. What does this mean? Is persistent, flag indicating whether the sign-in cookie should persist after the browser is closed. Okay, so this is probably because of the still needing to do the email confirmation. So if we close the browser, it closes. Okay. So yeah, I just copy pasted, but everything is already done. So user is signed in. So this is missing a return. I don't know where. So if model state, okay, I should have put this here. So let's see if we can create a user. This is running, yes. So test password 123 456 123 456, and it redirected here. So it created. Let's see the database. I was expecting an error, but oops. I want to open a Open A. Where did I right click? Jump to console. New console. Okay, so there is a user. Yes, we have the username. Okay. Honestly, I was expecting an error, but okay. Password hash is null. This is weird. I think I was expecting a password there. We'll see. I'm expecting some errors when we try to log in, but maybe I'm wrong. So supposedly this is the... Oh, of course it's wrong, because I forgot to put the password here. Here now, create the sync. Password, of course. That's normal. We don't have a password. Let's just delete this row. I always forget how to do this. Read from HPNet users. I know. Okay, so empty. Let's try again. Test 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, now this was what I was expecting. Errors because we are not following the rules for passwords, and I don't like these rules, so we are going to take them out. We go over here to the startup, and I think over one of these has some options that allow us to customize. Setup. So options, password options. Okay, so required digit, false. Required length defaults to 6. And I'll put like 12, but not now. Required lowercase, false. Required uppercase, false. So I don't like all these rules, and many people say they really don't make sense. We should have big passwords. If we need to remember them. Instead of a password, we should have a passphrase that is big. And but ideally, we should use a password manager. But I don't want all of these sketchy rules. At least it doesn't have a maximum length like some bad sites. Okay, so now we should be able to register with a simpler password. Let's try 1 2 3 4 5 6 2 3 4 5 6, and it worked. Now let's get back here, select, and now we have password hash and all of that. Okay, seems okay. Email not confirmed. We should have over here in the logs a warning, dummy email sender. Yeah. Okay. Let's clean this up. Clean this up. Okay, so register is working. Can close all of this. And let's go and take care of login. Let's start by spying a bit on what is done by the scaffolder. So this should be simpler than the register. Not much, but maybe a bit. So sign in manager, just because this just does the sign in. Again, the tracer property, bind property. The model, error message, which is kept in temp data. Return. So email, password, and remember. Okay, so on get, sign out. I think I skipped over something. Yeah, I skipped over these external logins. We'll remove this part. We don't need this in our case because we're just going to have username and password right now. We won't be using like social logins, at least for now. So we don't need this part. Over here on get, it's doing the sign out on these external schemes, but we don't need it yet. External login cookie. Okay, and then on post, if it's valid, tries to sign in. If it succeeded, redirects to the return URL. Again, it shouldn't be a local redirect. Okay. So let's start our copy and paste session again. I think this view imports should have a better place, but they have this as well. Okay. Add razor page. It will be called login. I think the last time I played around with this, it was in Visual Studio, and it did this model by itself. So let's start with the C# part. So we need sign in manager. We need this, allow anonymous, important. The login page. And then I'll copy this again, this part. So we don't need this part, the external logins. we need the input, of course, with its bind property, error message, okay, as we're basically using the same stuff as identity. Okay. What else? So then comes onGet. But I think in our case, okay, there's the error, the return URL. I'll copy this part only, because ours won't be async, as we are not using external logins. We don't need this part, which is the async part. Return URL, I don't need that part. Maybe I did it wrong on the register. Let me check. No, it's just getting the return URL, because I don't want to redirect to somewhere. I'll do just that. So okay, so we check if there's an error message, which is on temp data. Temp data basically allows us to store something, normally in cookies, I would say, in a cookie that is removed. We'll have it stored in loaded from the itemp data dictionary. So temp data can come from various places. We can check here. But so temp data can store stuff. Session state, configuration. Then just show me. Temp data stores data until it's read. The keep and peek method. Okay, so there are temp data is a way, it's just like an API to do this. And then there are implementations, providers. So in this case, cookies. So basically what this does is when on the post there is some error, it's stored on the temp data. And then when we get on the get, we can read the data from the temp data and put it, in this case, in the model state for it to show on the top of the page. So let's implement the HTML part now. Let's again copy this one. So I'll just copy the form part. The rest we'll try to make pretty later. So this ID, I think it's not needed, so post. Okay, so most of this is more of the same. One thing that's different, if you notice, is instead of ASP action, we have the ASP page to register, which is different from what we saw from the MVC part, but the rest is basically the same. So besides this ASP page, the rest is mostly the same. Inputs, ASP4, the tag helpers, like we already know. Just let me add here login, and I don't think I did it in the register, so let me add it just for us to have to make sure where we are. And again, I will delete the classes. Even if I left them, it wouldn't do anything because I haven't imported Bootstrap. Okay. So let's just go over it. We have a form, posts, validation summary. We have the email, password. I removed too much over there. ASP4. Email. Label input email. Validation for password. Remember me. And submit button. Forgot password that we don't have yet, but hopefully we will. And the register. Okay. So this should show us something now. I think I stopped it. Yeah. I know it's not secure. Unable to resolve. Identity sign-in manager. Same problem again. That's the problem with copy and pasting. So, play ball user. And what about now? Okay. So we have email, password. It won't work, but and we can go to the register. Okay. So let's take care of post. Taking a look at it here. So does these checks? We'll just copy and paste it. Doesn't make sense to waste time. Okay, so direct. So sign in, succeed or not. If requires two-factor, redirect to page, locked out, redirect to page. Okay. And over here, just take a second look at password signed in. It takes the email, the password, and the remember me. So probably when we do this, it will automatically, because of this, will change if the cookie will take longer or not, will be persistent or not. Just check lockout failure. The documentation is weird. The documentation says to enable password failures to trigger account lock, set lockout on failure true. And it's true. So it should count. I think the documentation is... the comments are wrong. So let's take a look. Login. Let's start with test and make a wrong password. Invalid login attempt. Okay. And if we do a valid one, it worked. So we are signed in. So if I go here and check the cookies, there should be something. Let's set to register, check cookies, and there are cookies here. So anti-forgery is for this page, but this identity application should be the cookie for the application. So okay, let's with login done. No, with login done, let's go for logout. Let's close this stuff. Let's create new page, logout. I'm pretty sure in Visual Studio this is generated with the right name, but okay. So logout. Logout doesn't really have much here. So this one is simple, that one, this one. And over here, this should be really simple as well. So we just need a sign-in manager to sign out and redirect to the return URL, which this insists is local. Let's do another super copy paste. This time I'll put it correctly from the get-go. Okay, so I'll just use it like this. So verb, not local redirect, redirect. Pretty sure. Okay, so it's probably done. Let's take a look. So we have this cookie here. Let's just do logout. I know it's not private. So if we go here to login, no cookies, test. Now if you go to register, there are cookies. And then if we go to logout, the cookie is still here. Maybe that's not the correct cookie I was expecting. Oh, it expired. Okay. It didn't delete the cookie, it just expired it. So if we log in, test, login, register, should have cookies here? No, it's expired already. I'm really confused with this. Expires in 1969. Weird. Okay, it's better we create a page to check out that we check something. Allow anonymous. Yes, this is not really needed, but it shows us that we can get here, because if we do logout again, and if we do it again, now this login, logout, we can get here. Again, that was unexpected. Let me just check here the account page, manage index. I'm probably missing something in the authentication part, because I would say it shouldn't get to the logout page, because I forgot to put the allow anonymous. But I'm not sure. We'll make sure by creating the account page to check out the user's properties. Just close this right now. Get back over here. So now we'll create a new. Now we'll create a folder. Account. And over here we'll create an index. I'm assuming it's also called index model. Yep. Let's take a look at what. Just can go here, here. Let's take a look at what they have here. So what do we have here for the account page? So status message, partial, okay. Rows, username, email. If it's confirmed, it's good. If it's not, email verification, okay. Then phone number, we don't need no phone number. A button to submit, and over here to send the email, confirmation email, we see this little thing that's a bit different from usual. So ASP page handler, send verification email. So if we go over here to the code behind, there should be a on post send verification email async. So this part here matches what we see over here in the HTML. So this will submit to that route where it will send a verification email. Okay, seems rather simple. And over here, more of the same. So another page, user and sign-in manager. The sign-in manager. So the user manager is kind of obvious why we need it to get information, but sign-in manager, refresh sign-in. So on post, if something changed, the sign-in is refreshed, so regenerates the user application cookie. Okay, so if we make changes, maybe some information in the cookie becomes outdated, so we should call the refresh sign-in to make sure the cookie is updated. Okay, this is to update all the information and verification email. Okay, let's start our copy and paste. So as before, I'll copy until here for now. So identity user is playable user. Okay, so username is email confirmed. Status message, okay. Input. And input model. Same bind property as always. We don't need phone number. We just want the email. Okay. Next, let's take a look at get. So on get, we use the user manager to get the user using a user. These are different. So this user is an identity user. In our case will be a playable user. But then this user is a claims principal. So this is what comes from the cookie. Whatever is put on the cookie, then we'll get here when we log in and pass through the authentication pipeline. We'll end up here in the claims principal. So this basically uses the claims principal, which has the user ID over there, to get the user from the data store. And then if not found, it fails. Then to get the username, this is a bit weird, I would say, but I think it has to do with the extensibility points. So because we could implement everything that's behind identity, so we could, instead of using a SQL database, we could point it somewhere else. We could use, I don't know, an XML file or a TXT file, whatever. But I think it's because of that, because it's strange. We have the user. Why are we using a get username async? So I would say this is because of the extensibility points, but I never really played with this. I would say most likely if we just do user.email, it has what we need. But okay, we'll follow along as they are doing, just to be sure. But for instance, if we added more things, we would need to add more methods like this. This is a bit strange to me, why this is needed. I'm pretty sure it isn't, but we'll bite the bullet and follow what they say right now. Maybe in the future we simplify this, because it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. So don't need a phone number. Then is email confirmed? Again, this is weird. So every property we would have to do this. Don't think like this would make too much sense, but okay. So let's see if we can get here. Oh, we need to fill this up, so let's copy this part. Status message, I don't know what this partial means. We should investigate. Right now, don't know. Let's keep it like this for now, but let's go over here. No, I don't need this part. Phone number part, don't need phone numbers. How do I remove? Let's remove the classes as before. At work I use Visual Studio, so at home I use Visual Studio or a Writer. So sometimes I get confused how to do things, like I don't know how to find and replace in Writer. At least not in this, in a single page. Okay, if I can. This won't work, but input group add-on. This, remove. So this basically input for email is confirmed. Input for email. I don't think we need this part. If it's good, it's good. If it's not, then it appears the error. The normal is to be without problems. Let's see. Okay, so we should be able to get to this page unless there's something wrong with what's going on with authentication. Let's see, there's an error? No. So let's go to account. Error status message was not found. Okay. So there's probably something around here. Status message. Okay. What's this? Let's simplify this. So how did we do in login page, for instance? I think we had a message somewhere. If it wasn't here, was registered. I don't know. Good enough for now. Okay, so it has the information. It's logged in. That's the only way to get here. Let's just run this in debug. Let me stop this. Break a breakpoint over here on get and run this. No, this one. Oh, I made a run. I wanted to debug. Stop this. Refresh. and we're here. So user, let's check what's in the user. So it's a claims principal, and the claims are the claims. So name identifier is this GUID. If we check out over here in the database, it's the ID of the user. So this is what he uses. More. Claims. So the email is over in the cookies as well. And the security stamp. Choose that security stamp. Don't really know what this is, but let's check it. So playable user, identity user. Security stamp. A random value that must change whenever user's credentials change. Okay. Okay, so this is the user. This is what comes from the cookies. Just let me check something here. Cookies. I'm still not understanding why this says it's expired. But, okay. Isn't there a way to see more information? Probably not. Should install some extension. Let me go here. What was the name? Edit cookie. Yes. Let's check out. Nothing. SP application. Okay, expiration is 2020. This is not helping. Forget it. Okay, now this makes more sense. So the expiration is 2020. There's this lot of stuff. Okay, so we've seen the user, which are the claims that come from the cookie, and now it goes to the database and brings the user. Oh, it brings, what is this? Is a type. But is the user, oh, it was just the toString. So the user has everything, so ID, email, security stamp, username. Yeah, like I said, this probably is just for, like I said, how can I say it? It's probably just for accessibility for multiple stores and stuff like that. I don't think we need it. In fact, I will remove it. It makes no sense. I think. No, I'll let it be. It doesn't do any harm, but it sounds strange to do this when we have all the information. Can I step into? I can. So let's step into. Oh, I didn't want to go here. Okay, so it got the email, it got the username. Much likely it got it from the same place, from the user that's already in memory. So, but okay. So we put the email in the input model. Is email confirmed? Return the page. Okay, so now if we do logout and see the cookies, So the cookie was just expired. And if we go to account, what do we get? The breakpoint? Really? Oh, on get, the user. Claims, no claims. Or there are claims. So the logout is not working correctly, I would say, because this shouldn't get here. We're doing something wrong, or else there shouldn't be, this shouldn't work. But it did work, so we have some error in the logout page. Oh no, we don't. Now I'm remembering, yeah, just stupid. So in the logout, I'm pretty sure in the logout, on get does nothing, on post signs out. We are heading there with a get, so it doesn't sign out normal. It's I can't even. So how can we log out? We need to make a link. So in the account page, let's just do, let's check how they do it. They probably have in the account identity pages. They have a layout, under body, manage navigation. So there is probably over here a logout, I would say, or not. Index, password, login, two-factor, personal data, or not. Maybe they're expecting the users to do it, which makes sense, but layout. Okay, so we just have to create a logout button. So let's get to our logout page, or not, I'm lost. The account page. We're here. Let's create at the top just form, and we'll do this. How will it do this? I just want to redirect to the logout page. So probably want a ASP page. Logout, or I think so. Logout method post. How can I add some should be enough. Let's see. Now I want the button logout. Submit. So let's see. I have a doubt if I have to do it this way, but let's see. Let's enter this in debug. continue. Oops, not what I wanted. I wanted to debug. I just wanted to continue. Yes, express. No. So we're still here. Log out. Okay. So let's try. So it's not log out. Is it just log out? Nope. This probably won't work, but let me just try. So log out. Probably missing something. Okay, it got here. And the cookie is gone. Okay, so if now we go to account. In fact, at least it wasn't able to get there. But the cookie is removed, but it shouldn't even have got to this page because of authentication. So there's something missing so far. Let me try something over here. It's not the best, but I remember it's probably this. I probably have to have this, which doesn't make sense because of the allow anonymous, but probably, let's check. Connection, that's not the same error. Netwatch run. Let's try. I know. Proceed. Okay, it redirected to login in the account. Okay, but it's correct. I just need to reconfigure the login, but that was what we were expecting. So it worked. We are back here. We log out. We try to go back to the account, and we can't. It tries to redirect to the login, but this is wrong. But okay, this worked. But this isn't really nice, so let me check. I think I saw something here when I first investigated it. I think areas. Okay, so conventions authorize area folder, but I don't have areas. Do I need? I'll put this. We haven't needed it yet, but probably should have put this. Let's go to the startup. MVC. Let's put 22. Razor pages. Let's see what we have here. Options dot conventions dot authorize. Okay, so I want to authorize. How did I do it? Account. And then I remove the authorize. Let's check now. What happened? Path must be relative. So account, hopefully. Okay, it works. So everything that's in the account folder will have the authorize, and the rest won't. So now test. Okay, and now logout, logs out. Account is redirecting to the wrong place. So we have now authorized, made authorization required to access this folder. Now we need to fix the redirect to the login page. Let's take a look at the same docs if they say something about this. Okay, login path, logout path, access denied path. Okay. Configure application cookie. That's not something I would try to find, but okay. Access denied. This doesn't exist yet, but okay. This will probably throw an error, but let's try. And this is running. Yes. Saved. Let's see. Login. I know. Test. Account. Logout. Now account. And we're at the login. Test. 1, 2, 3. And we're at the account. Okay. Seems nice. So this did the trick. This doesn't exist, but we'll create it eventually. Okay, we have this on the way. Still a lot missing, but we'll continue. In the next episode, we'll create some more things. Let me check what is over here. Okay, I'll check, but nothing over here is super important. Oh, I forgot. I'm wrapping up, but I forgot. We still need to bring in the send verification email part. This is fast. It's just a copy paste. So. Oh, and okay, not so fast. I'll copy everything because, yep. So, starting, post, no phone number, refresh signed in, okay, so gets the user, it's the same as the get, so gets the user from the user manager given the claims principal. then gets the email. If the email changed, it will try to set it. Oh, this is interesting. Let's see what happens if we try to change the email, because the username is the same as the email, so we must try to do both of them. And over here, this should just work. So get user, no user, and confirm the email. If not, okay, we won't test this unfortunately right now. So let's check the, we just remove this. Let's check this, make it test 1. Oh, I know it doesn't exist, but why does it, why cannot be null? Let's refresh. Email sender. Okay, we'll check it later. Let's see this. Save, your profile was updated. Okay, so this is missing. We updated the email, but not the username. So besides this, we must change the username. Although this doesn't happen in a, so name result. But this is a bad solution. I'll just put a comment. This is something we must check. Alternatively, we could just create a username and get on with it. Yeah, that's probably the best idea. I'm not going to do it now, but maybe it's a good idea or not. How does the sign in work? The sign in uses the email. So if not, we could just generate like a random user name and always use the email for everything, and never show the username for nothing, which is, I'll have to think about it, but it will be for another episode. In this case, let me just put I didn't want to put a lot of ifs, but it's better. Nah. how do I put protected set? Oh, it's all internal, we can't use this. That's annoying. Oh, okay, we can do identity result dot success dot nope, that failed. What's the problem? A method group. This is not a method group. Identity result, and this gets what? Oh, it's a method. I thought it was a property. Okay, so if the first one fails, it doesn't even try the second. But yeah, this is important. If we succeed with the username but then fail with the email, the user will be in a strange state. So I'm going to have to investigate this. Let's just check. So test, save. No. Test again. It worked. But this is important to fix in the future, because it may end up with the user in a strange state. But okay, so let's wrap up because the video is already too long. So we've checked out a lot of possibilities with the identity, checked the easiest way, which was just use the application like we see here. So just normal application with identity already implemented. We checked out the scaffolding, which I would say is most of the times the way to go, because it's already everything done. And then we try to roll our own, but with a lot of copy and pasting, because we would end up with the same, and it doesn't make sense to be typing all of that. Hopefully, even though a long video, we enjoyed it and learned something that probably you would have learned just by looking at the docs, but at least this way you can comment and we can have a chat if anyone has questions. So I'll see you again in the next one. See yous.